The battle above our last standing colony world was progressing as we expected. The Cassadian's gaze was being relentlessly pummeled by a hailstorm of cannon and laser fire, while her sister ship, the Lord's Grace, drifted slowly into the void after receiving a few direct hits. Her shields were holding, barely, but it wouldn't be long before she became a tombstone. We had hoped by now they would at least tire of the constant battles, but victory after victory spurred our great enemy into more fighting. This war has continued for decades, and only until recently had the Rukhan gained the advantage. We would lose this war, all thanks to the Rukhan's new weapon. A bright light flashed in front of me as one of our frigates received a hit from the main cannon, obliterating it instantly, causing two nearby destroyers to likewise vaporize. A ship they called Ember lived up to his name as the massive dreadnought glowed with bright orange lights. A gigantic spear with engines, bristling with point defenses, with its front-mounted phase cannon that ripped apart any ship it pointed at. We had seen that fetid monstrosity in every battle we had lost thus far, and until it appeared, we had been relatively even matched through the decades. And now, our last colony world on the verge of our core space would shortly be obliterated by that same cannon. My ship, cloaked on the outer edge of the battle, hid among some debris from a previous fight to watch the spectacle and tell the Admiralty what to expect. I had sunk into my seat on the bridge and resigned myself to a desperate upcoming war, and the miserable hell from being made to watch the planet, home to 80 million souls, be glassed into oblivion. Again, for the 35th time. Every ship we had to spare outside the core worlds was here. Every which we could beg, bitch, or bleed from the fleets to defend this planet. One last-ditch effort, and it was failing. As the Cassadian's gaze let off a bright flash of light as its reactor detonated, taking with it the entirety of the 8th Phalanx, I knew we had lost. I felt it in the ship. The entire crew had by now come to share my despair. If it weren't so brave, and if I knew they wouldn't follow us, I would grab a contingent of ships and disappear to the edge of the galaxy to start again. My lord, the 7th Phalanx is routing. They've lost the assertion, my ensign said from his console. I know. We still have the Resolution and the Absolver. So long as they stand, we won't lose. Keep up the fight. And hope, I replied. My tone was not very helpful. My lord, priority transmission from the core. They have sent reinforcements. I detected 25 warships in transit, the comms officer said. 25? Have they not seen the reports we keep sending them? 25 won't do anything, I yelled out in despair. My tirade was stopped dead as the fleet the Admiralty Board told us about suddenly appeared into view. It was apparent instantly that these ships were not Seranian. Sharp angles and dark colours, every inch of flat surface saturated with cannons. It seemed a standard ship layout, only very ugly, very pointy, and very industrial. Well, 20 of them. They seemed slightly larger than our ships, but only by a few thousand tons, and seemed strangely quick despite their bulk. 2 ships seemed to be split in half at the centre, and contained strange circular arrays, which were likely some kind of spinal-mounted cannon. 14 ships were of standard configuration: frigate, cruiser, destroyer, and a single battleship class. But the last 4 ships were of the oddest design I had ever seen. Each one was different. Our translation systems were working overtime to determine the ships' names for easy ident. Each one was of an odd, unique design and paint job, but one could easily see they were the core of that fleet. A mixture of feelings came from the crew as we transmitted orders for the fleet to regroup and ready reinforcements. Disgust and contempt due to the repulsive designs, happiness and glee on finding a new ally in our war. Curiosity and question as to what new species awaited us. Confusion and anger at the fact they only sent 20 ships. Shouldn't they have more forces for this? The readouts and translations from the 4 uniquely designed ships appeared on my screen, and I didn't understand them at all. 3 ships, the Gladius, Pilum, and Sabre, were formed behind a ship called the Bulwark. The gliders were sleek, symmetrical, and bristled with small point defense cannons, colored gold, red, and silver. Mounted to its right was a moving mechanical array of arms, fitted with bristling armor plating that angled and moved around. To the left side was what appeared to be another mechanical mechanism, presenting a fat shield or energy barrier of some kind. The pylon was of a similar design, but had a more rounded hull with blue and silver coloration. The mechanical arms were gone, replaced by an excessively potent shield array, and the right side mechanism seemed to carry a large long pole with a strange energy emitting from it. The Sabre was a long thin ship, with a large horizontally curved hull at the front, like a backwards-facing U. Coloured blue, red and white, fitted with 4 large main cannons mounted across the hull, single-barreled, all of battleship caliber. The front U seemed to house some kind of energy array. Maybe it was a pulse laser of some kind for fighter screening. I could see how it would be useful. The Bulwark was a larger warship than the others, and carried only point defense weapons. A long, angular tube-like construct with a large cranial head, bristling with point defense weapons and what appeared to be an array of spinal-mounted cannons. Well, at least that's what I presumed it was. Fleet 1 on approach, capital phalanx formation. Primary objective is engaging escorts, came the voice from the radio comm. Fleet 2 moving to engage, standard bulwark formation, readying energy spike. Primary target is the enemy dreadnought, came the second voice. A sadistic-sounding laugh appeared on the third comm. Infiltrator ready for boarding action. Let's go car shopping. Followed by another sadistic laugh. We sat in awe at the odd monstrosities charging towards the battle. It was only now I noticed that each of the 4 ships at the front were heavily modified with very high-performance engines and thrusters in nearly every direction. They could easily reach high speeds very fast. The more I thought about it, the more terrified I got. Those things could likely pull off maneuvers that would shear the majority of our ships in half. I looked closer, and the only thing that ran through my mind was one question. What kind of hellspawn species could survive G-forces that these ships could produce? Fleet, please be aware. Main contingent is 2 systems behind us. We're just here to try a deep strike and get rid of that supercap. Plan is to hit them hard, then retreat. Soften them up for the main fleet to arrive. Just keep us covered. The order came through, and like a shot, the fleet gunned their engines and charged at the formation. This is Fleet 1, we are in range for bombardment. Bulwark, we got you covered. I scoffed and launched into a rant. In range? In range? What could they possibly mean, in range? The most powerful long cannon we have can only hit targets at 25 miles. These creatures want to hit targets at over 5,000 miles? What kind of insane? My tirade stopped mid-sentence, as the cannon on one of these ships, a so-called sentry cruiser, charged up and fired. The energy burst from that damn thing told us their reactor could power 20 of our cruisers. Seconds later, 3 enemy warships, 2 cruisers and a battleship disintegrated inside the enemy formation. One killed by a direct impact, the other blasted because the impact from the first turned it into a pincushion from the shrapnel, and the battleship taking a direct hit, where the bow was blown completely off. This is Infiltrator, we see our opening. Incoming 5-finger discount. Another sadistic laugh came over the comms. Bulwark on standby, we see a vector. Dampeners primed, locked and loaded, charging impulse. The radio chimed again. I watched carefully, as the enemy fleet now pointed its flank at the newcomers, and quickly reformed its lines, only for yet another hole to be blown in the formation from those sentry cannons. Impulse! Came the radio noise. In perfect formation, in perfect unison, the 4 odd ships' engines blasted blinding white light and faster than any ships their size had the right to, charged the formation. In less than a minute, they covered over 300 miles of empty space. The large bulwark ship had now used its front array to charge a very potent shield unit that blasted away any debris and even vaporized or ignored a barrage of missiles. The sentry cruisers picked and chose targets of opportunity, taking out 2 more battleships and a host of frigates. Roma Victor! I heard a battle cry over the comms again. The bulwark dropped its front metal array, folding away like a curtain. The Pilum charged forward past the array, and its pointy tip slammed into the underside of the dreadnought's hull, fully penetrating its armor. It scraped along the hull for over 100 feet, then coming to a quick stop. Some strange mechanism pulsed at the base of the pole, an explosion of pulse of some kind. Then the pole drenched from the ship and blasted deeper into the hull. Then the Pilum backed up and sped away towards us. Just as it got a mile away, it gunned its engines as the underside of the dreadnought exploded, creating a cone-shaped crater in the ship's entire underside section. This action overloaded the shields. I glanced over to the side during this and noticed the ship designated Infiltrator was sitting upside down underneath an enemy battleship, using some odd mechanism that had claws digging itself into the hull of the ship. A series of long spike-like tubes are stabbed into the ship's hull, and we could tell by readouts that a swarm of hundreds of life forms were flooding into the ship's interior. I looked back to the bulwark fleet to notice the Gladius engage, getting in close. The strange array of armor plating mounted on mechanical arms were fully deflecting any laser fire or projectile fire they received as they approached. The strange mechanical arm with that energy field glowed bright as the Gladius flew past, close to the hull. As the ship flew past, it used its odd energy weapon, and like a knife through butter, cut a glowing gash of molten metal through the ship's front cannon array, disabling it permanently, as part of the main gun's emitter array separated from its parent ship completely. The Sabre maneuvered itself a bit to the side, charging towards the dreadnought's engines. Just like its counterparts, the strange energy beams hit the hull, spontaneously boiling away the metal it hit. With a combination of speed and weight, the ship's blades sliced through the armor plating like a knife through butter. This one didn't seem to stop, however, or change course, and it sliced straight through, cutting a ship-shaped hole straight into the dreadnought's rear end. The Sabre cut through one end, and then through the other, then quickly departed, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake, as the dreadnought's engines separated from the ship entirely. This whole sequence took place in less than 30 seconds. The dreadnought was now dead in the water. Half of its escort fleet had been vaporized or disabled by the sentry cruisers, and now the main fleet was engaging, supplying cover for its frontal attack to retreat. Gladius here, weapon expended. Main cannon array is out of commission. Bugging out. Sabre here, enemy is dead in the water. Main engines no longer exist. Target is a sitting duck. Bugging out. This is Pilum. We've taken a bit of damage, but the objective is complete. Enemy shields are out of service. Bugging out. This is Bulwark, full reverse thrust. Shield array is back up. We're covering retreat as best we can. Bugging out. This is Infiltrator. Our coupons were good. The bridge is ours. Heading to checkout. 5 messages in quick succession, followed by 5 ships, and an enemy warship with a new accessory welded to its hull blasted past us again, then waited at the edge of the star system. All ships focus fire on the Ember, I commanded from my console, and within seconds our ships had switched targets. The Ember's defences were gone, unable to retreat. Our remaining battleships pulled up and fired a full broadside volley straight into its cannon array. Our pulse lasers making quick work of its armour, as smaller ships fired relentless barrages of missiles and plasma cannon fire into the gaping wounds left behind by the strange ships. Other enemy ships attempted to retaliate or act as bait, only to be vaporized by the sentry cruisers, or the reinforcements' own warships. A bright detonation as the Ember exploded. The reactor finally going supercritical rang out, wiping out a dozen ships that were flying just a bit too close. 1 or 2 of our own ships were caught in the blast. A bittersweet victory, but one that sent us into a gale of jubilation and celebration as the enemy fleet routed and headed to retreat. The sentry cruisers, however, kept firing, and before the enemy fleet could engage FTL, it lost 20 more ships from its formation, reducing its strength to 1/3, before disappearing into the void. We ignored it for the most part, hearing the celebratory cheers over our entire comms network, mixed with the happy celebration from the 80 million souls who had just been saved from extermination. So much celebration, we only noticed the reinforcements of the main contingent had arrived, just as the hull of their massive dreadnought slowly moved above us. Like an eldritch god reaching over the cosmos, The damn beast slowly lumbered over us and cut our celebration short. It took a few minutes, but a massive fleet of thousands of warships burned fuel past us. Every viewing port we saw around us, just more and more and more ships. Each one larger, stranger, uglier, or more heavily armed than the last. This is Contingent Omega, ready for pursuit of enemy targets. All ships that are still able to engage line up to formation and charge FTL drives. Any ship with prisoners, injured personnel, or any damage at all, even if it's just a scratch paint job, fall back to dry dock. You're no use to anyone if you can't fight. The comms chimed again as the massive warship fleet moved to the edge of the system. Our ships were tired from fighting but still good to go. But they did nothing. I yelled out on the radio to the fleet. "This is High Lord Serranis. You heard the man. All ships still able to fight. Join up with their formation and finish this damn war once and for all. Translation protocols have been transmitted." I heard a rousing battle cry as most of our fleet entered the formation and charged their FTL drives. My ship decloaked and likewise joined the formation, heading to the main flagship. As we arrived, taking a close look at the 3-mile-long monstrosity, we finally got a look at what they were. Humans. Bipedal mammalians with 2 brightly coloured front-facing eyes, hairless fleshy skin and symmetrical faces. Not what I was expecting. Tall, heavy musculature, at least all I could determine just with a first look at the thing. Huh, space elf lizards, huh? Wasn't expecting that. But yeah, hi, we're human. Nice to meet you, the creature said. I am High Lord Serranis, commander of the Imperial Expeditionary Fleet. We are Endorian. It is indeed a pleasure to meet you, and finally turn the tide of this war. Your tactics are concerning, I responded in kind. Fleet Admiral James J. Lord. Yeah, I will admit our deep strike assault craft are odd, but hey, you can't argue with the results. Unfortunately, it's standard fleet tactics from here. We can hash that out on the way to the next system. Have you logged into our ident yet? He said, his mouth revealing rows of predator's teeth. I looked at my subordinate. He nodded in response. We are indeed, but might I ask a question? Would that question be, why are you here in full force and helping us by any chance? Simple. Every time they attack you, they glass a planet. They just kill everyone. It's evil for the sake of it. Murder, just because murder. You never did that. They did that every time. The only ones we want dead are their leaders. It seems we share a common morality, so yeah, he replied simply. Well, that answers that. Fairly certain there's more to it, though, I said with a grin. Let the politicians sort that one out. We are soldiers. We got more important shit to do. Let's get started. Get into formation and use our Bulwark-class ships for cover as you advance. You have some pretty potent pulse lasers there, and the Bulwarks have the best shields in the fleet. Think you can use that to your advantage? He asked. I quickly typed away at my console and searched for a bit of inspiration. Then it clicked. All Endori ships are to maneuver behind the shield arrays of warships designated Bulwark class and use them as an approach vector. Use them as cover to attack enemy warships. The humans can bombard to cover our advance. Primary targets are shield arrays and weapons platforms. The humans can handle the brunt of the damage. I barked into my comms console. Bulwark fleet here, order received, waiting for new formation, came a radio command. This is Phalanx Wing, all ships received orders. Changing shield array deflection angle and charging weapons to full, came the reply from my own fleet. Efficient, fast. I like you already. Let's put these bloodlusted thugs in their place, I said to the human. With you all the way, friend, he said. The fleet maneuvered into formation. Thousands of us, just as our relief fleet arrived from the core carrying my compatriot. I ordered him to care for the local area first, then follow behind us to take the fight to the enemy. The tide had now turned.